We are going live. We are live now. 3, 2, 1. Hi. Live.
Hello.
Yay. Kornelia here, and I'm with Dr. Brooke Sheehan. And
Hello, everyone. Excited to be here.
super excited this is our brand new show today, a brand new podcast that you and I are facilitating here. And that is Truth Bombs with Dr. Brooke and Kornelia Stephanie. And do you have your coffee?
I don't. I drank my coffee this morning. I ran to the office. Sorry, guys. I will have my coffee for next episode.
Yeah, I've got my coffee. I said, well, I have to have the coffee. So I thought, well, we have to bring the coffee because it's part of our messaging.
Absolutely.
And so I thought we should just open up and tell the audience, since there's no intro, we're doing the intro live, that we should tell the audience what inspired this podcast, what the messaging is about it, and what is it that we want to do. And so why don't we start with you sharing your thoughts about that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Kornelia. So you and I have been in multiple different conversations about just the current events, right? The reality of the world that we live in. And, there is really a huge side of the story that's being projected out into the public. And there's also another side of the story that's getting shut down or closed off or, banned, removed, for all sorts of different reasons. And so today and moving forward, you and I both were really inspired to just really speak our truth and what we know to be the truth. And, it's for us, this is something that we're not expecting this to be someone else's truth, just to kind of help open your eyes or open your understanding to the reality of what's going on. So you don't get kind of caught up in one, frame of thought. And you can make a decision for yourself, because the reality is we are autonomous beings. Like, we have, the ability to make those decisions for ourselves. And it's not just because the general public says X is right, so therefore you have to do X.
Good. So, and yes, and everything that you and I are talking about is part of you and I. We own our autonomy. We own our mastery. We know that we are co-creators, that we are creators. And so that's also another big piece of that. And that we are in alignment, absolute alignment with our core value of freedom, freedom of our autonomy, freedom of our body, freedom of travel, freedom of speech, freedom and empowerment. And that was another reason why we wanted to have these conversations, because there's so much, we're digging for truth. And that's what we're encouraging you to do. That's why we called it Truth Bombs. And that's what we're encouraging you to do, because this is a core value, truth, and part of the new earth consciousness, and part of our autonomy is the truth. And there's so many people out there that are slinging and keeping the separation going, slinging words like, I'll use this word, conspiracy theorists.
Right.
Okay. So many people are, rather than knowing even what does conspiracy mean and what does theory mean, what does that mean? People are just taking labels and flinging them at each other, because that's what they've been conditioned and trained to do. And you and I are having a conversation to really open it up, to look at what the meaning is behind the words, what the meaning is behind the vibration of what it is that we're talking about, and for you to discover your own truth. Because it's not all on the top, right? Like whatever it is that people have bought into as far as belief systems, that is the part that we need to open up like Pandora's box and go deeper, and so that we can really dig for truth and find out what our truth is. Does that sound good?
Absolutely. Sounds really good. And I just to kind of piggyback a little tiny bit on what you just mentioned there. So I don't have all the facts of the story, but you could definitely go back into, history, quote unquote, and look back. Kornelia used the word conspiracy and conspiracy theory and conspiracy theorist and all of these different terms that describe a person that thinks beyond what the narrative is being spoken or thinks beyond the narrative that's being told. And so really the word conspiracy theory came from the CIA. The CIA coined that word when the public started to kind of have like this, outlash against, I forget what was going on. I will come back. I can actually add that into the comments, the whole story. But there was something going on back in the 1960s, I believe, that the public was actually starting to have an uprising about. And so they turn around and coin this term conspiracy theory to basically kind of shut those people out. Oh, they're just conspiracy theorists. Oh, they're just conspiracy theorists. It's like as a negative connotation for thinking or for being woke to what is happening. And so that I wanted to tail into. And then also, just the fact that there is, a narrative that people are hearing and they think that it's one way because that is the only thing that is getting pushed to public media channels, when in reality, there's so much more going on. But the thing is that, and as a doctor, I am dealing with patients left and right. And Kornelia, you are working with clients left and right that are in this high state of stress, high state or fight or flight. They're constantly, their nervous systems are revved up. You will never heal in a situation like that. In fact, you have more ability to get sick from whatever virus, from whatever bacteria, from whatever yeast, mold, fungus, anything out there, right? Because the reality is we exist with these things, right? These tiny molecules, all of that, we exist with them. But when you're in a state of high stress, high, alert, fear base, you are more prone to get sick. So part of what Kornelia and I are going to be doing here and really opening up and dispelling is this thing about understanding that there are two sides, there's three sides, there's multiple sides to every single story. And when you turn around and start to hold, firm to your truth, to your belief, no longer are you going to be taken over by that fear mechanism, that amygdala in the brain, that small part of your brain that like fear, danger, Will Robinson, running to run. You will definitely be able to stand firm and know, okay, my body's experiencing symptoms. And I will be really excited to kind of share with you some of the things that you can keep mindful of when your body is starting to experience symptoms, what you can do to be really proactive and keep yourself healthy. Because I think empowerment, Kornelia mentioned empowerment, is important to be able to stand safeguard from all of the other things coming at us.
Yeah.
So anyways, take it back, Kornelia.
That was good. You said a lot of things, and I should be taking notes because I want to make my points. In collaboration with you, because we're sharing our beliefs. We're sharing what it is that we're standing up for, that we're speaking out about. And again, it has to do with our core values of truth and freedom and non-division, unity, and non-separation. And the whole narrative that's being played right now out there is keeping the separation going, which is a lie, this is one of the main reasons why you and I are coming here to have these discussions now, and to educate and open up this conversation so that we can really look at what it is that our beliefs are, because we create based on our beliefs. That's how we create our realities, what it is that we believe in. Yep. And to open it up for further discussion so that you can, because a belief can be changed. This is the beautiful thing, is that if you have a belief and you were conditioned with a belief that you used to believe in this, and now you discover, oh my God, there's so much more truth here. I didn't realize once I started opening it up and started looking at, oh, is it possible that this situation here got hijacked Is it possible that this situation is not at all, and I'll just use the government, for example, is it possible that there is a lot of corruption going on here that we weren't told about? Is that possible? And really taking a look at all of these things, because again, it's about our freedom, it's about our empowerment, it's about our self-realization and our self-actualization. And so what does it mean, Brooke, to be a self-realized person? Right? So go ahead.
Right.
What does it mean to be a self-realized person?
For me, and I feel like this is a definition that could be, every individual person's going to have their own unique definition of that. But self-realized is to really, like I mentioned earlier when I was talking, is just really owning who you are, standing in your power, owning your voice, speaking with truth and love. It's not about division. There's so much division going on out there these days, and part of that has been created. There's definitely been aspects of that division that they're playing two sides against each other. And so self-realization just is really owning who you are, knowing who you are, standing up for yourself, not letting yourself be or succumb to powers that be, or people that are trying to bully you. If you think about in a big global scheme of things, I feel like this is like a big squabble on the playground, and there's bullies trying to push people down and hold them down and say you're worthless and you don't matter, And so really being self-realized for me is knowing your worth. Kornelia and I have had multiple discussions on this, but knowing your worth and just really owning who you are.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah.
And when you start owning that and start standing in that truth, there's nobody that can come along and that can tell you any different, because once you know something, you cannot not know it. You know it. And you know how it was talking about a belief can be changed, but a knowing cannot, because you now know it and you've taken ownership. And so, I was one of those people in the initial part of my awakening to remember who I am, because now what I teach others is guiding them into themselves so that they can realize themselves and become self-realized, self-actualized beings in co-creatorship, so that we can create the new earth together in our truth, in our compassion, in our sovereignty. And those are the things that are important to me. I used to give my power away to outside sources. And one by one, beginning in 2011, I started claiming my power back. I started claiming it back from, when I would give my power away to friendships, relationships, where I would always put the other person before myself. And little by little, all of the things. And just over this last year was another big, huge piece, because of all the separation and division and the corruption that is exposed and was being exposed. I went deeper, and I was again mind blown, where I was still holding on to certain beliefs. And then I opened that up, and I discovered that, just because there's an organization called Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that they are who they say they are. Because if you think about, Black Lives Matter, and I love my Black people,
Absolutely.
I absolutely know where
they matter. They truly do. But it's not the organization that is going to, quote unquote, be the end all be all for that.
So when Black Lives Matter, when they burn down, Black people's businesses, that doesn't help Black people. But I didn't know that at first, but I went deeper into the organization. And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, here's another one. Here's another one. Here's another one. So these are all things that we have to discover in the vision of what it is that's important to us, what it is that we stand for, what it is, who it is that we believe in, where we give our energy to. So just this morning, Brooke, before coming on today to talk to you and talk to the audience about this, you want to say something?
I want to jump in really quick before you jump into some of the topics. You mentioned belief, and beliefs can change, but knowledge can't. Is that how you said that?
I said, yeah, once you know something. Mm-hmm.
So that really, in my mind, that sprung up a quote for me that has been such a guiding light for me in my life over the years. And I don't know who it's quoted by, so forgive me. And it might have, dash unknown. But essentially the quote says, "A mind's man once stretched never will reach its original dimensions." So once your mind becomes stretched, like Kornelia was saying, with a belief system, and then you gain knowledge, you stretch your mind, you can never go back to that old way of thinking without understanding, who is that person? I don't even recognize the person I was with that thought process before. So just kind of wanted to throw that in there before you get started.
No, that's so good. And I appreciate you saying that, because while you were saying that, it reminded me of one of my favorite quotes. Mm-hmm. So you know that I am a metaphysical energy teacher. This has been my journey so that I can discover what my spiritual core values are. When I was on the news in 2017 or 18, the interviewer there from the news station asked me, "How did you become a spiritual teacher?" And it was interesting because I did not set out to become that, because I actually went in my own inner awakening to find out, what is God? Who am I? Where am I from? What am I here to do? And that's when I went in to find out what my spiritual core values were. And, we always teach what we need to learn. So that's how I became an energy teacher, right?
Yes.
And once I discovered, that my spiritual core values and what they stand for, and how awesome and healing it is, and how empowering it is to bring source energy back into the 0 point moment and create from there, and creating from the love, the truth, the sovereignty, the abundance, instead of creating from the fear, the separation, the limitation, the control, the manipulation, instead of creating from there, which I used to buy into.
Absolutely.
Yes. It has been such an honor to be awake to that world, and awaken within that world. And so, one of my favorite quotes, because even in spirituality, I also discovered there is hijacking.
Right?
Bomb, truth bomb.
Boom. There was a bomb right there, Kornelia. It happens. We're witnessing global division, but it happens even in the micro little pieces of life.
I just got the chills. That was a truth bomb.
Yes.
Right? I just got the chills, like major chills. So even in the spirituality, there's hijacking. So in all the systems, that we are relating with, whether it's in our healthcare system, in our school system, in our government, in the systems that we buy into, even in our spirituality, which is why all of my work is always about guiding you into yourself, you as source, soul self connected to yourself, and that you create from there, that even that on a spiritual level, where your source is and who your source is and where it's coming from. Coming back to my favorite quote, it's a quote by Buddha, and Buddha basically said, "Do not believe anything that you listen to from outside sources, whether it's angels or gods, including myself. Believe it only if you have explored it from the deepest parts of your heart." And that right there is one of my favorite quotes. And this is what I live, because like I said, even in the spiritual, circles, there is hijacking going on in the awakening. And so you have to really know who you're listening to, where you're giving your power to, and all of that.
Absolutely. So well said. So what kind of topic ideas do we got going on today?
Well, first, I thought it would be great for us to define you started out with this topic to define what things mean. And I'm a big person of this is how I learned how to become a self-realized and self-actualized. And I'll say an enlightened master,
Mm-hmm.
owning who I am,
Mm-hmm.
an enlightened being, how I learned how to look at the meaning behind what the word is and
Yeah.
defining what the word means to me, bringing it
Mm-hmm.
out in the open, and and again experiencing that word and becoming that word, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So just
Mm-hmm.
this morning, since we were talking about conspiracy theorists, because we would probably be labeled as that by certain people that would watch us, and they would say, "Oh, they're conspiracy theorists." So
Right.
I
I
invite you, rather not you, Brooke, but
I
every
know, I know. The listener, the
yeah,
viewer.
listener. I invite the listener just to open up your mind and even discover and see if there's something new that you can learn here, so we can build a bridge and we can
Mm-hmm.
meet each other. And that is what does the word conspiracy mean? So the word conspiracy is a secret plan to do something that is unlawful or harmful. Okay, so let's truth bomb.
Great definition. Truth bomb. Exactly.
Right? So that's what conspiracy means. And
Mm-hmm.
a theory, what does a theory mean? A theory is something that is shared, and let's just say that the powers that are in control or manipulation, a theory is something that they don't want you to know about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because underneath that theory, there might be another opening, another conversation. So
Right.
again, and if you're listening to this conversation today and you can see our hearts, you can feel our energy, you can feel our consciousness. Certainly, the two of us are not sitting here creating a conspiracy to do something harmful,
No.
do something
No.
unlawful. So throw that one right out of the window.
Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. The two of us sitting here right today really just want to help you stand in your own power and feel empowered to do you and speak your truth and your voice and find what is true for you.
Yes, and so there's that. The other word that I want, so and again, the what you had mentioned, that movement that was happening in the
Mm-hmm.
1960s,
Mm-hmm.
where that word came from, and even this morning, as I was getting so excited about coming on to have this conversation with you today, I was like, wow, because I always take everything back when I do clear with the 0 point energy. I always take everything back to source energy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Mm-hmm.
I track it all the way back, the same way that you work with the body and the
Yep.
things that you test in the body and work with the body. I do that on a spiritual level, and I take it all the way back to source energy. But then
Mm-hmm.
I look at all the timelines, all the lifetimes, all the places in between where the evolution of consciousness
Mm-hmm.
was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you look at the times of when Jesus the Christ was
Mm-hmm.
walking on the earth plane, and even during that time, we could say that most likely Jesus was called a conspiracy theorist.
Right. I would agree with you. I would agree with you. He did all kinds of things during his time here on earth that a lot of people, even the high priests in Judaism, could not stand behind because they're like, he cannot be our Messiah. So, absolutely, Cornelia, I guarantee that that's what he was.
Yes, exactly. So I
Yeah.
just want to bring consciousness to the words that we're throwing at each other, because we,
Mm-hmm.
again, just throwing labels out and, firing bullets and
Yes.
creating toxic environments.
Yes.
If we're doing that, please stop it, because that's harmful.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
actually harmful to the unified field of what it is that we're creating here. So
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to really bring the clarity to what is what is conspiracy, what is theory, and clear that up. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more. But we
Absolutely.
would certainly you know welcome your views on it, as
Mhm.
long as it's done in a nice way, because it's not about harming each other or hurting each other, right?
Right, exactly. Because we're coming from a place of love, from standing in our own truth. We're just, Cornelia and I's mission is not to sit here and kind of pound things into your mind or try to change. Of course, we'd love to see beliefs change around certain things and knowledge gained. But if your truth still remains the same based on what we're talking about, that's okay, because
Yeah.
we're coming to you with love. Like, it is from an overflow of heart energy, of source energy, like Cornelia spoke about, that we can come and share this with you, right? These are not like comfortable topics to speak about publicly in the world, but somebody now, like, I recognize, it's what that story, like, did someone stand up? No, but I wasn't this, so I didn't stand up. And then you go down the line, and now they're coming for you, but are you going to stand up? And no one's there. And so, Cornelia and I are at a point where it's like, we've had a lot of conversation on the back end of all of our calls and all of our, conversations together about this topic specifically, and just really wanting to just share with you guys from a heartfelt place. So I know Cornelia did a really great job at sharing that, but I just kind of want to throw in my heart as well that this is from a place of love.
Yeah, this is from a
Yeah.
place of love. And, it's so interesting because, I thought about, so many people uh, hold back because they're afraid to speak their truth, and they're afraid
Mhm.
to speak. And even, the freedom of speech isn't honored uh, on this planet. And even on social media, channels are being taken down and
Yeah.
different, so a lot of
Right.
those things. And so you and I talked about this. Wow, because we're both influencers, we're both in the
Yeah.
media, and we're both using these platforms to share our voice together with you, the audience, so that we can do what it is that we came here to do, and that is to shine our light, to live in
Absolutely.
our truth, right? And
Yep.
to share that and have freedom of speech and stand in
Mhm.
that, because it's a constitutional right of our humanity, our
Mhm.
autonomy, that this is how it's our birthright,
Yes. Yep.
right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
one of the other words that came this morning that I wanted to address, and that is the word spiritual bypassing.
Okay.
What do you know about that?
I don't know that I know that word entirely.
Okay.
Give me
Okay.
some
Well,
of your thoughts, and then I'll see if maybe I have a different word for that I understand that to be.
it's a lot. I see this as a label being thrown around to people, or especially people in spiritual communities are using
Uh-huh.
that word, and they're slinging it around, to people.
Okay.
And so I wanted to address the meaning of the word,
Okay.
and I wanted to address what it means to spiritually bypass.
Mhm.
I mean, really, what does it mean? Bypass
Mhm. Right.
means bypass the spiritual completely and move into whatever, the mental, right?
Yeah, that's exactly those two words together. That's kind of what my mind thought about. Like, wow, okay, we're just negating it completely, but I wasn't sure necessarily like how it's being thrown around. Like,
Yeah.
so you're saying other spiritual people are throwing that at each other?
Yeah. Or people are
Yeah.
throwing that word at each other. Uh, it's a projection that
Mm,
they're putting,
mm,
maybe because they haven't attained that level of awareness yet in their physical body. They're
got
not
it.
taking ownership, and so they're projecting it out so they
Mm,
can see it. This is how I see projection: is when
yes,
people do it, they're projecting it out so they can see it, hopefully, and realize themselves. Okay,
yes,
that's
yes.
how I see that. But I want to talk about spiritual bypassing in the sense of how to really take ownership of that word, and that means
Mhm.
heal to heal.
Yes, yes,
That means,
yes.
feeling all of the feels,
Yep,
whatever the trigger is, and
yep,
not bypass the whatever it is,
yep.
whatever is causing the trigger. And
Mhm.
that's, inviting you into your emotional wholeness, and going into the core wounding, if there's core wounding there that needs to be felt, needs to be realized. And then, of course, bringing the source energy, the highest truth, the spiritual wisdom to it.
Let me jump in really quick. So just for the listeners and any of the viewers watching the video portion of this, Kornelia made a great point about, you got to feel it to heal it and to kind of go in and you're moving through it, right? And so many times, and I, work with the physical body on a constant daily basis. I work with the physical body, I work with the energetic body. I bring both of it together, right? The spiritual, the source energy, along with the physical energy, and bring them all in together to be able to get a specific treatment plan for my patients, for the people that I'm working with remotely or locally. But so often, and more oftentimes than not, the body is holding on to trauma, to shock that it's experienced in its life, that the conscious mind can't even put two and two together. So she talks about spiritual bypassing, Kornelia, in the sense of like, we're just kind of like trying to shove feelings aside. At least that's kind of my understanding of how you explained it. But we're shoving feelings aside and saying, well, yeah, my brother died, no big deal. Like, I got bills to pay, I got kids to do, You may not consciously be triggered by your brother's death or whatever it is, whatever trauma. This can be micro or major traumas, but your body is carrying that. Your body is hanging on to it. And if you're not feeling it and you're not going deep with those emotions and allowing yourself to move through it, that hinders so much more of your healing or your vitality, your health and well-being long term, because the body is getting anchored down with all of these feelings and these thoughts that consciously you're not even thinking about.
Right. And basically, and then that's how disease starts, by holding
Manifest.
I believe that 90% of all disease is emotional suppression in the physical body, and the other 10% is environmental and whatever else there is,
And I agree with you. I agree with you.
I don't think we've ever talked about that part, you and I.
Right.
Yeah. So I believe so, and think about this, you guys. When, in the 60s, you mentioned the 60s, let's bring up the 40s, let's bring up the 60s, the 20s, we were not trained and conditioned to feel. We weren't trained and conditioned to have it be okay for us to feel our feelings. I find it interesting today in the women's circles that I lead, that when I invite the ladies to, when I invite them to go ahead and feel your feelings, and then their mental mind will say things like, I shouldn't feel that way.
Yes.
I'm acting like a baby.
Right.
Right. And these feelings are like, wait a minute. Stop trying to talk yourself out of feeling. And I'll tell you, Brooke, the feeling paradigm was born I'll tell you when the feeling paradigm was born. I was part of that clarion call when that paradigm was first birthed into this planet. I was part of that group of people. In 1987, there was the Harmonic Convergence. And that is when, so many souls around the planet was, because we were all based on doing. We were not feeling. And so in order for us to evolve, we had to break down, and we had to be willing to feel all of our humanity. We had to be willing to do that. And many of us, like myself, I had a core wound of suicide at my threshold that I had to move beyond. And so I surrendered my life in order to bring the feeling paradigm into this physical body, into the earth. And I know there were many other people that were doing it around the planet, but I know that I remember asking Source, I want to feel you. I want to feel you. The only way I'm going to stay here is if I can feel you. I need to feel. And again, what were we doing? Numbing up, addictions, suppression, not feeling.
Yeah.
In this forward movement of evolution, heaven on earth, peace on earth, core value,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we have to feel to heal, and we have to feel all the trauma from the past. And that is a hard thing to do when you are all of a sudden taking in all of this light and at the same time feeling all the shadows.
Absolutely. It is the most, for lack of a better word, and not to scare anybody, but it's the most horrific kind of work, but it is the most necessary kind of work, because you have to walk through that darkness of the shadows that Kornelia just mentioned, in order to find the light. See, I still have shadows that I'm working through. Like, and I'm not going to speak with for Kornelia, but it's a journey. It's not a point A to B and you're going to get there. It's a process. It's a process of developing. It's a process of emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and physically getting to a place where your vibration is so high that eventually, those points at which could bring you to the bottom, you recognize, wow, they are no longer affecting me in the same way that they used to. So you've reached a new level, and then you reach a new level, and then you reach a new level. And it's a constant work of evolution, and it's the most beautiful thing to watch unfold.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that, I'm an empath. So
Yeah,
that, and a lot of people are.
yeah.
And they
You
just
feel it all.
right?
Yeah.
You feel it all. So can you imagine me being an empath? I used to think that the reason why I wanted to kill myself was because of my own trauma, when it was actually
Someone
everyone else.
else's.
Just think about it.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
I know, right? So, and I wonder how many people are out there committing suicide as empaths that are
Right.
actually feeling the vibration of others. So that's why it's too much. It's too much. So
Yeah.
there's so many conversations to be had around all of that. But
Yeah.
I can tell you right now that, September 17th of 1993 was when I healed that core wound of suicide, and it can be done. And I can tell you right now that anyone that is sitting on the fence or is thinking about taking their life, call me, 360-941-5783. You have resources and you have support. That what it is that you don't want to kill yourself. What you want to kill is the pain.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. And the thing about it is that in order to kill the pain, we have to feel the pain.
Mm-hmm.
And a beautiful space to be held for you, so that you can really truly feel all of that and move through it and rise above it and give birth to your new self. It's
Mm-hmm.
possible. I'm the person that has transcended that energy, and I know there's others that have too. So I didn't mean to go off on this suicide talk today, Brooke. It just came up.
But that's the beauty of truth bombs and coffee. And just to kind of throw it out there also for the listeners and viewers, is that the show will kind of unfold as energies are flowing between Kornelia and I. And eventually at one point, and her and I both have discussed this, is we'd love to bring some of you guys on. If you guys have stories to share, if you guys want to speak your truth in terms of what's going on, we'd love to have you on. So just keep that in mind. Definitely reach out to either one of us. And as we build up the show, we'll definitely love to have that happen. So again, it's just free flow, and it's just like kind of open up dialogue and just kind of allow people a chance to get to think differently and hear different stories. And we're talking about conspiracy theories, and then we talk about pain and how important all those things are. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that was really, again, throwing labels out there, conspiracy theorists and all of that. I think it was in January of this year is when I put a post out on Facebook, and I invited, it was a beautiful post, and I basically just invited everyone to make peace. This is always my core message. I mean, I wrote a book, I created a movement, everything is about peace, being at peace, the inner peace. So I put a post out on Facebook, doing what I always do naturally, talking about peace, the physical body, love, unconditional love, right? I a post on Facebook and I said, make peace with the supporters that support Trump, make peace with the supporters that support Biden.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, make peace, right?
Mm-hmm.
And part of the reason why is like here in my community, there were a couple ladies that I absolutely love. They're friends of mine that live here. And they, because of their political beliefs, their families were cutting them out of their lives. And
Mm.
you know, telling them that, whatever,
Right.
calling them names and all of these things. They were ending relationships based on that. And two beautiful women, gorgeous hearts, right? Beautiful
Mm-hmm.
people
Mm-hmm.
in the community. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what inspired me. And I thought, wow, this is what they're going through. I bet many other people are going through it too. So
Mm-hmm.
me being vocal, I said, okay, let's make peace with these people because let's make peace. And
Mm-hmm.
you should have seen, Brooke, the backlash that I got from making that post.
I mean, my face shows the shock, but it's like part of me is like, I mean, again, with the current events that we live in, people are so dark cloud over them. They cannot even begin, or the, veil covering their eyes. They cannot even begin to see what, the common thread here that we're talking about is projection, like what they're projecting out. And that's horrible. That's horrible because the reality is if we didn't know anybody's political standing, viewpoints on different things, like, would we say hello to them at a park if they had another 3-year-old toddler and my 3-year-old toddler was playing? Of course, they're a mother. They know, they experience what it's like there's so much common ground that we have as human beings that it's like, really sad to see the division and the fact that the backlash, right?
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah.
that's why we're talking about this, because we are not about dividing. We are about uniting. And that's always going to be the core message. It's always going to be about building bridges and about being able to have a space, to have a conversation, to have a dialogue with other people, to see if we can learn something, if we can hear something from their perspective. That's one thing, but always to dig for the truth, to dig for
Mhm.
the collective truth, so that
Mhm.
we can stand up for all of the systems that haven't been supporting us, and that
Right.
we can build sustainable systems that will support us
Right.
and that
Right.
will support our children who are our future leaders on this planet.
Right.
Your
Right.
child.
Right. 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 Exactly. I know that we have about 10 minutes or so before we're going to be wrapping up. Um, I want to, and I don't mean to quote unquote hijack, but like I said earlier, the flow of the conversation, so often, right? Especially in today's current societies, and for those of you who might be listening to this well after the time of its recording, we're recording, the first week of July, so there's a lot in the year 2021. So there's a lot that's had, transpiring, and like, let's talk about the V. And by V, that's a code word for something that's getting pushed out. We're now hearing in the mainstream media about calls to go door to door, have people go to door to check on you, to check your status, to, let you, it be the deciding factor of if you get to leave your hometown or not and get to travel. It being the deciding factor whether you can go see your favorite musician in concert, whether you can go see your favorite sports team play, another, like opposing team. All of these different factors that are now being thrown on the table as a possibility to be taken away from you if you think any different. Now, I'm under the belief pattern, and so is Kornelia, that it is a personal decision. It should be made personally with your belief pattern, what you know to be true, what you know to be fact about yourself, how you're taking care of yourself, and do the risks outweigh the benefits. Okay. So, there's been a lot of propaganda. There's so much marketing going out towards making sure there is 100% compliance. This is the first time in history, if you really think about it, that there has been the marketing at the magnitude that it is. So for a $2 billion US budget to get everybody across the board taken care of with the V, you are like, seeing $1.5 billion of that $2 billion budget getting pushed out for marketing. For marketing. We've never seen billboards like this. Like, we've had all kinds of different things come in through the years, H1N1, swine flu, all these different things come in. There's definitely been a push for the V for those, but nothing to this magnitude. Now, this is something, of course, I have patients across the spectrum. I have patients who decide and patients who don't decide, and people who are still trying to figure it out and decide in the middle. It is not my job as the physician to make a decision for them. It is my job as a physician to share with them the information for them to make a decision on their own accord. It's my job as a physician, doctor, is to teach. It's my job as a physician to teach them what it means to be empowered about their own health and well-being. It is my job to make sure they know all of it, right? So with that being said, and I don't mean to kind of take this and run, but I do think that it's very important for people to be aware that all of the information that you're hearing from the mainstream viewpoint is very one-sided. You're hearing about cases. You're hearing about people who get it. You're not hearing about people who are passing away from the vid that they're, talking about. And by vid, I mean video, quote unquote. You're not hearing about that. You're hearing about cases. Now, cases can range from being super severe, of course, that is completely unfortunate. We don't want to see that. And then cases can range all the way to the, common cold symptoms, where they tell you go to urgent care and they say, just go home, quarantine for 14 days, let it run its course. Now you are a statistic in their books because you are a positive case. Positive cases don't mean anything when we're looking at the big scope of everything, right? You really need to look at, weigh the factors. Now, most people current days are surviving. We're not experiencing, the very early on people in body bags. It's no longer a death sentence. It's a part of, hey, I don't want to say it's a part of life, because nobody wants to get sick, as a result of trying to live in the world. But the reality is, how many common colds and child illnesses have we endured and gotten through to survive to get to this point? This is what life on planet Earth is about. We share this space with other microorganisms, with animals, with all this kind of stuff. Other thing is, these things mutate. It's why we have a different flu shot for different strands every single year. So hearing information in the media about mutations means something, but also shouldn't really trigger a lot of feelings about something, because everything mutates, especially these. They're supposed to mutate. That is the way they survive. They mutate and move into other cells in the body. That's how they are built to survive. There's so many ways. Our immune systems are innate and are adaptive. Our innate immune system, just for clarity, is what we've been born with. The adaptive immune system is what comes about as we experience colds and sicknesses and flus and those kind of things, because then the body and all of its innate wisdom gets so much smarter and is able to fight off the next round of that pathogen. So if we're throwing all this kind of toxic things at us in hopes that we'll be able to withstand against this, or in hopes that it takes away our fear, we're almost hindering our ability to self-heal, self-regulate, and manifest this healthy well-being.
Which is going in the opposite direction of where I'm going. So,
sorry.
That's going in the opposite direction. It's because the belief system that I have is that the body has the ability to self-regenerate, self-heal, This is,
Yep.
the belief system that I bought into, and that is
Yep.
what I make my choices and decisions on. And I have the right and the freedom to choose what I put in my body and what I don't put in my body. And as does everyone else. And thank you for bringing that up, Brooke, because, this is all about, again, claiming our freedoms back, talking about our freedoms, and where is it that we're standing in our freedom, and what comes with that, the
Right.
responsibility that comes with that, right?
Right. Yep. And just to kind of close out that little piece that I was sharing is that any of the natural, quote unquote, natural things that have helped combat the particular thing that we've been, dealing with over the course of this past year and a half are all being taken off the market. And people, don't want to hear that. They do think that that's a conspiracy. Being in medicine, working in this field, and having a supplement like N-acetylcysteine taken off the market, when this is something we use for patients, not with V, not with anything else. We use it for a lot of things because it's a precursor to the number one antioxidant in the body, glutathione. Our body uses a lot of glutathione. But just keep in mind that the reason these things are being pulled off bit by bit is because if there is any, and this is all in the laws and the papers and everything of the nation, if there is a solution or a cure or a treatment for a condition, you cannot, by law, mandate anybody take any sort of V, the other V. You can't have them put it in their arm. You can't tell them they can't travel without it. You can't do all this if there is a treatment on the market. So keep that in mind. The reason things are being pulled is because it's almost like a mass illusion to try to get 100% compliance. Now, your body is your body. You need to be empowered in your understanding of your body, in your healthcare. I'll share, again, some tips about how to keep your health and vitality in your body up so you don't have to succumb to stuff like this. But that's for a whole different episode. But just keep that in mind. I just want you to think about that.
No, that's great. I'm so glad you brought that up, that you brought this topic up, because it is definitely the evolution of, we need to be talking about it. So I'm glad you brought it up. I think next week when we come back, because we're going to come back every week, right? Is that what we have, Brooke?
We're coming back every week starting in August. So for the month of July, will be every 2 weeks. So our next episode won't be till July 22nd. And then beginning in August will be weekly.
Yay! Thank you for keeping me on track. Yes. We're gonna be coming back, and like Brooke said, we invite you to come if you want to be part of our panel and you want to be on this show and you want to be with us so that you can have your voice heard. Reach out to Dr. Brooke or myself, Kornelia Stephanie, and we'll be happy to talk to you about it. So I already know a couple people that would definitely want to come on. So I've
awesome.
Yay.
Yeah.
So anyway, wow, this was hot, wasn't it?
This was awesome. Yeah. I mean, in closing, guys, just thank you so much for viewing. If you have any questions or comments, and you would like to share or have some thoughts you want us to kind of discuss with you, happy to do so. So let's create dialogue, right? Let's create like understanding and communication without, just throwing and projecting different things, because again, we're coming to you with love. Like, this is not out of any sort of ill will and saying we're right and you're wrong, or, this is what it is and that's not what it is. But it's just really learning to kind of peel back the layers and look at the whole picture. So, yeah.
We're here to create community. We're here to create community and open dialogue. So that's what this is about. Thank you, everybody, for listening and tuning in. Thank you, Brooke. And we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.